It's the weekly 30-30 trading list on the ASX. We're looking at the 30 strongest momentum companies over the quarter and this week's 30 best launchpad stocks as the market's hitting its lows, and we're looking for companies that are fighting up against the market tide. We want to be surfacing those companies that have got some sort of base, showing some sort of potential trajectory as the market's really edging out those lows. Gary Glover has scanned the list and surfaced his favourites for the week. Happy Friday, Gary. How are you?
Yeah, I'm pretty good, Chris. How you going?
Well, we've got this happening. We've got the market coming back down towards lows that we've edged out before. On your Tuesday report, you go through in quite a bit of detail, but today we're focusing on these hopefully these new market leaders that we're surfacing. When you're looking at the momentum companies, what's sticking out and standing out to you?
Probably just kind of the smaller nature of them, actually. So, like at the moment, some of the small caps, obviously the small caps are underperforming here, but the ones that are actually popping here the most are actually some of the smaller companies. So not really the heavyweights. We've had a lot of heavyweights in the list there recently, but it seems like this week a lot of them have faded out there. I think Whitehaven's in the list there. I think maybe Beach Petroleum, but there's not too many really big stocks in there. So probably a few smaller ones have sort of crept in here.
Okay, well, that's a good thing to know as an overarching movement that we're seeing some life in these smaller caps that are normally getting belted pretty hard when the market falls. Aren't they normally the first ones sold out?
Yeah, usually they are. Yeah, but maybe there's some sort of newer companies there. So I know sort of things like obviously the Galileo, which is we've been on the report the last couple of weeks. It's obviously got a drilling program on and sort of got new type of activity going on. So I guess maybe one thing here with some of these stocks is they're newer sort of stocks to the market there. So but yeah, this one's pretty interesting there because obviously we had a pretty strong pop there, pretty strong volume. And we've seen a bit of a pullback here now, so it's interesting here because it's sort of faded here, like the one, the last sort of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 days down. So if we say that's our top there at 194 there, after a bit of a pullback here and congestion there, it's come back here, but look, come back in pretty light volume. So it's not like there's I'm always scared when I see strong selling step in. So even those 3 days down here, like this day here, those are the 3 days there, pullback, low volume. Those are the 5 days here, low volume as well. So
is that saying to you that at these high prices, sellers are not taking the opportunity to sell down large positions? They're actually kind of holding it pretty tightly, are they?
That's exactly right. Yeah. So it's so strong volume on the way up here. These pullbacks there. Obviously, it doesn't take too much to probably just run out of buyers there. So, but we're not sort of seeing mass profit taking there. So oftentimes when you get a massive turn there, it's almost like you just see the insiders start to sell. So basically, wade into the market and then start selling. So the good thing here is I haven't seen that yet. So there's been no sort of really strong selling here so far. So still leaves it in a pretty solid position. So so that's actually doesn't look too bad to me.
And if it congests and maintains sort of that 130, 140 area, what does that kind of sideways pennant flag do for the likelihood of a good run?
Yeah, so you almost sort of want it to coil up a bit, don't you? So it's like you want to have a bit of a breather, go sideways, don't lose too much price action, and then once it pushes through like a lower high there, then kind of go with it on your trigger day. So I mean, if I'd be playing this stock, if I was sort of selling some of that into strength there, I'd almost be tempted to top a little bit up here. I wouldn't go my full part, but I just if I was lucky enough to sort of sell into that 180, 190 zone, I'd be tempted to sort of buy a little bit of that parcel back here, just because it's had 5 days back here, not much selling going on, sort of just tightening up here. So yeah, maybe just use that the 20-day moving average there or something as a bit of a stop here. But yeah, I mean, it's hard. It's not getting too many great signals here on the long side at the moment. So this one's probably not bad in the current climate. Yeah.
Oh, so that's a good one for the leader in the markets on momentum. Are there any other momentum ones that are catching your eye?
This is one that I sort of saw that had a bit of a pop here, a bit small, but this is the one actually that I wouldn't touch here. And for the as we sort of just showed there with Galileo, how there's no selling. Look at that selling that's come in there. So as you sort of hit a bit of a crescendo, a bit of a peak, we've gone bang, the biggest bar. So basically we've gone to the, had a run here, and all of a sudden the selling's really come in. So that's the sort of trigger that you don't want to see. Do you know what I mean? So that's a bit negative, seeing that big, it's almost a bit exhaustive, and then it's really, as prices moved up here, it's just drawn the sellers in. So we're seeing decent selling there. So big selling, a bit more. So that's what you don't want to see. So when you see these sort of stocks fire up, you don't want to sort of see them get up, and then all of a sudden someone, that's clear sort of distribution sort of selling into that strength there. So that's a bit of a negative. So that's what you don't want to see in some of these small ones here. I think Bubs pretty interesting. Sort of one that we had obviously in the list there a few weeks back, and so obviously had that, Joe Biden doing the big deal with Bubs, and yes, obviously she started pretty hot, eased back, had a little bit of a bounce, eased back here again. So again, see how it sort of just tightened up in here. It's like, nice contraction there. And we had a little pop here today. So it's actually held here quite nicely around that 60 zone. Had a bit of pop here. So this is not the worst looking chart here. Come back and kind of filled in, a lot of that heat there. So this might just sort of start to build here. So it is possibly a bit of a game changer for Bubs as well, getting into the US market. So people might argue it's only short term, saying it's only may not have any longevity there, but it could lead to longevity for Bubs here. So we don't know here, but yeah, it's obviously a decent win for them. But yeah, could lead to greater things. The share price is actually pretty positive there, so I actually don't mind look at that.
Nice. Okay, so that's progressing well. There's sort of that's a larger name. Are there other strong leaders?
That's one larger name there. This is sort of one that I think this is like coal, if I'm not mistaken, as well. So it's had a pretty hot sector there. Looks getting a bit vertical there. Had a bit of a cool off there, but yeah, no real selling here so far. So probably just want to see this hold tight here or go through a bit of a consolidation. You almost want to sort of see this type of thing here where you go through a consolidation. You don't lose too much price, and then you're looking for a bit of a pop here. See how that day there had a bit of a trigger there. Some nice volume there, and so you almost like a little, your little mini cup and handle in here, you might say, and then pretty popular pattern amongst the strong stocks. So, but yeah, I don't know. I wouldn't be chasing that one here, but maybe it's one to put on the radar. Then maybe you can have a bit of a breather here, and NWE didn't look too bad, but probably a little too small for me. Pretty bit of liquid there. Beach Petroleum there, pretty bullish here. So it's again, Chris, here's this pattern here, so you got this little sort of cup and handle pattern there. But as we sort of start to break through here, I mean, this was a pretty good, look at that sort of trigger there. So although I hadn't gone through the high there, you're seeing that volume there. It's just, this is just sort of tightening up here. Just the whole trend is sort of, staying tight just underneath the high there. Leading sector, and yeah, look at the pop there. Once we sort of popped through there, that was a bit of a catalyst there where it looked like it was going to go through. So I'd often be looking for a break here to go through there, but that sort of bar there might have got me encouraged. I think something like some of those energy stocks look pretty good on. I think we highlighted sort of Santos there, made that, few attempts of the high and then push through. I mean, again, I think that's probably the same day for Beach, some pretty good volume there. So some of those energy stocks look pretty robust. There's a couple other small ones there. ARU, I think it's in that rare earth sort of space there. Just be interesting to sort of see what happens here. Might just sort of consolidate here, this one. Some pretty good volume in there. Saw a little bit of distribution at the top. Seen a little bit of distribution here, but not too much so far. Just needs to sort of hold tight here. You want to see a bit of a consolidation there. So that's sort of one to keep an eye on. WDS is obviously the Woodside again, so look at that. So this is like your little, trading channel here. And then once we got a bit of a, so that was sort of that stage it looked pretty encouraging. And then the next day we've actually broken out of that downward range. So I mean, you could have been buying that on the open there after that sort of, strong, robust sector, break of the sort of, break of the downward channel there. And all the volume, geez, it's a strong sign there. So, I actually bought some Santos on that break there. I just thought that looked pretty look pretty solid there. Sort of, it's almost that Davis box sort of breaking through the top on strong volume. So yeah, that's how Davis made his money. It's hard to do that sometimes when you're sort of buying near the peak here, but when the sector's strong and then the volume's strong, you got momentum there. It's it looks pretty robust.
No, last week or so, WDS has had the highest volume, higher than BHP for some days. So it's really getting big turnover.
Yeah. So it's interesting there because we sort of spoke about some of those all stocks too. Like the one thing I sort of found historically there, particularly in what they call high inflationary markets, is that that inflation, markets will find their lows as the inflationary market, as inflationary sort of stocks are peaking, and they'll just be coming off. So oil stocks should have peaked and then should be turning down as the market finds a low and starts turning up. So we clearly haven't peaked in all stocks. They're really robust. Oil prices are still going up here. So they're still, so normally the market will find a low after that sort of starts to peak and turn down. So, so a little bit off that yet. So I still think the market hasn't found a low here yet. And we need really oil prices to sort of peak and to be turning down before the market will sort of turn up. That's historically the sign there. So
is that when we see everyone selling their V8s for fire sale prices?
Selling their what? Sorry, the V8.
V8s.
Well, they probably would be if there was. I mean, obviously the car market's pretty tight at the moment, so you've got to get back in. It's a bit like the housing market in a way, but it's interesting there. I think it's just a really strong association. That's why I sort of think there's talk about inflation already having peaked there, and I just don't get that because oil prices have gone higher, food prices have gone higher. You're getting all these shortages. Still haven't got us. The supply chain issues still haven't been alleviated yet. So I don't know where is the respite coming in inflation. I don't see it. So be interesting tonight. I just cannot see how that's going to be a good number tonight, Chris. So I'll be surprised if that's lower than last time. I'll be very surprised. So, but we'll see. What else we got there? The other one was again the same sector there. So obviously that energy, VEA, a little bit boring there. But this is pretty interesting, Chris, because if we look at we had a little cup and handle here. See how we you might sort of argue this is a bit of a cup in here. It's maybe a bit complex, but then we had the little shimmy here, and then we had a bit of a break up there. So if that was our sort of old high, and we saw this bar here, look at the volume on that day. The two days there would have been pretty strong. So that's, to me, that's actually not a bad trigger. Those actually signs there would have been pretty. That's I would have viewed that as being quite a strong close there, breaking to a new high. That's quite bullish. Oftentimes that sort of go on here, but end up being a bit of a shakeout. Come back just under the 50-day and then started to build, and then that was it. So sometimes the best signals they don't work out. They can sort of chop you out, but then you got to keep watching them as well because this sort of started to build again, and then eventually sort of broke through. So you could have been, whether you use this high there or second high, I think breaking above those highs there. That sort of day there is pretty solid again. Good volume those couple of days there, so you can always get back in if you do get chopped out. But yeah, I thought that was pretty interesting, just because that's sort of one that probably would have failed you a little bit initially. So that was it, sort of on the momentum sort of stocks there. On the launch pad there, most of them are pretty small. So I think we had AHM, which is a pretty small one. So what are we, 2 or 3 cent stock? Volume's pretty interesting. So that was the one that sort of probably jumped out to me of those. PXX, again, another small one around that 2 cent mark. So again, some volume and a bit of a jump. And ROC, again, big sort of moves here, but pretty choppy as well. So hard to trade those. They're sort of a bit difficult. One I sort of saw in there, which I followed before, is SOR. That's had a bit of a pop here, some reasonable volume. That's probably what caught my eye. Then sort of holding up here and probably showing a little bit of strength here in this market, but we probably want to be sort of, Yeah, I mean, it's not. I mean, in this market here, I'll be pretty, I'll struggle to sort of trade these sort of stocks, even though they look okay. Probably a bit too risky for me in the market. I think you got to be trading some of the bigger ones. TMZ, just seeing some big volume down there. That's the only thing. I just sort of watch this as, had a big decline here, but seen some big volumes down there. Probably, again, we're not looking too much there as sort of jumping out here. Perenti there, I think, is, that's not too bad as well. It's sort of had a bit of a pop there. Obviously, some good news there, but we're obviously just struggling in a bit of a negative market. But this might be one to sort of keep an eye on the watch list there. Just might be one that might show some relative strength to outperform and sort of hold on there. That's about it there. There wasn't, most of the ones that I saw on the shorter stuff there was, was just kind of, most of them are pretty small. So, that's telling you the, right down the risky end. So, yeah, but not too much quality sort of moving up here. I think, it's a pretty negative market there. We're sort of, XJO is pretty heading down. I mean, when you get a market that's going back to retest the lows here, you'll find they'll struggle to find too many trades there. It got to come off pretty hard in the last week here, index. So I'm not going to get too many sort of high momentum moves here at the moment.
So when the market is coming down, retesting these lows that it's touched on before, what kind of trades and how are you looking at the market to understand and identify when to load up, when to buy positions, and when to get set for a rally back up?
Yeah, so we're sort of going to try and identify some of the stocks that have held up pretty well. So I think we mentioned Polynovo a while back there as having a bit of a pop, good volume there. And it's actually just been holding tight here. So it hasn't actually sort of gone back into downtrend yet. So it actually held, that's the low here. This is the high low. So far it's holding up here. So the market sort of grinds away, and this can sort of hold here when this pushes through to a new high there. That all might be happening as the market's finding a new low. And that'll be a sort of show of strength. So that's the type of thing I'll be looking for stocks that are showing a bit of relative strength there. I think on the list there, I think we showed that, what was it, the Audinate was basically on our list as well in that, in the quarterlies, that was showing relative strength as well. So that's had a bit of a nice pop. So we want to sort of, as the market comes off again, you'll probably see this drift back here. But if this can sort of hold up here and maybe put a higher low in as the market's making new lows, that'll be a relative strength as well. So we're looking for stocks that are actually going to show a little bit of strength here versus the market. We don't want to be buying stocks that are V-shaped, going to new lows and looking deep. I think you basically history's shown that you want to be looking at the sort of stocks that hold up the best here. So over the next month or two here, if we're going to find a bit of a lower markets, we're going to be looking for it. So I think probably in a month's time here, the stocks that are really showing a bit of strength here are going to be, they should hopefully reveal it themselves to us, Chris. So which ones are going to be the best performance here over the next quarter here? So that's what I'm hoping. So yeah.
Okay, so we're not trading the inflation stocks like oil ones that are possibly peaking out. We're not trading the V bottoms that are still trawling out a trough, but those that are sort of already going through that sideways congestion as the market's still being dragged down in your lows. They're just treading water, holding themselves sideways. Is that kind of the path that you're looking for?
Yeah, so they should have a bit of a bounce, like this Audinate should have a bit of a bounce, sort of drift back, have another bounce again, drift back, but it shouldn't basically be going to new lows. It should be basically sort of making a few higher lows. And so as the market's sort of going to new lows, they should be sort of just in the consolidation and holding in a strong position. And as the market turns up, these things should be turning out. They should be leading the way out. So, look, it may not be Audinate. I'm just saying this one's, had a bit of a bounce here in a market which is pretty negative. All these, if you look at all these lithium stocks, they're the ones you don't want to be touching there because look how ugly they are. They've really been sold off pretty aggressively. So it just kind of reminds us a little bit of all the payment stocks. They've sort of ground away lower over the last couple of years there, and they just haven't been able to bounce here. So it's just a new leadership group will emerge. That's what they say. So we just got to try and identify what that group will be.
Nice. That's a good way to end it. That's what we're looking for. And for those who want to keep on top of Gary's Tuesday's report, you can click on the link for that whole list of playlists there. And then there's also some volatility contraction descriptions, which can be a good trading strategy that Gary often mentions. Thank you very much, Gary Glover from Novus Capital.
Thanks, Chris. Thank you.